Hi, Chad Heinrich, Versamatic Pump. Today we're going to install a wet end kit into our E5 poly with a metal center. Out front we have genuine Versamatic parts in the form of air end kit and wet end kit. The rebuild you are going to see is accurate and man-method machine, but for video purposes some parts of the work performed have been condensed in time. At any point during the presentation, please pause this video until you have completed any part of the process. The pump we are using in this presentation has been built new and is considerably easier to work with than a pump that has been used in a process. Additional time may be needed in preparation and separation of parts and components during the rebuild. Identifying which kit is required for your repair has become easier on newer pumps with the permanently affixed metal serial number tag that now indicates the wet end and air end kit information for the pump. Kit information can also be found in the service and operating manual. Versamatic genuine replacement parts, wet end and air end kits provide a bill of material of the components included in the kit. All items included in the kits are components that Versamatic recommends replacing when rebuilding a pump. The pump we are using today is an example of the ease of installation. Always consult your respective service and operating manual before performing any maintenance on your pump. Service and operating manuals include composite repair parts drawings, repair parts list, and torque specifications. Our wet side rebuild today will include the following: diaphragms, check balls, and valve seat O-rings. These are the recommended tools used with the rebuild. While the sizes may change based on the model, the type will remain the same. Torque wrench, ratchet, small slotted screwdriver, O-ring pick, snap ring pliers, sockets and or wrenches, 7/16 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 5/32 inch socket head Allen wrench. Let's get started. For video purposes, we're going to use a 3/8 drive impact gun. We're going to start off by removing the discharge manifold. Remove the discharge manifold and set aside for later rebuild. Remove the valve seat O-ring and check ball retainer system. Remove the discharge check balls and discard. Now remove the suction manifold. Set the suction manifold aside for later rebuild. Remove the valve seat O-ring and check ball retainer system. Remove the check balls and discard. Now remove one outer chamber. Set this outer chamber aside for later reassembly. Now remove the opposite outer chamber and set aside for later reassembly. Holding one diaphragm assembly, begin to ratchet off the opposite side. Set aside the inner plate and outer plate and discard the used diaphragm. Remove the second diaphragm assembly that is attached to the rod. Now we're ready to install our wet end kit. Versamatic shafts have wrench flats on the rod to assist in diaphragm removal and installation when performing maintenance in the field. Today we will use a vise with soft jaws. Soft jaws are utilized to ensure that the shaft is not scarred, scratched, or damaged while the shaft is clamped in the vise. Now clamp the rod in the vise, break free the old diaphragm assembly, Save the inner and outer plates and discard the old diaphragm. Inspect the diaphragm rod for any scars, nicks, or scratches and replace as needed. Inspect the inner and outer diaphragm plates. Ensure the plates have no sharp edges or scarring on the radius. Plates can be cleaned up with emery paper, crocus cloth, or fine sandpaper. Make sure the radius is maintained during cleanup. Replace if necessary. Install the outer plate towards the wet side of the diaphragm. In this case, it's natural bulge out. Install the radius of the inner plate towards the air side of the diaphragm. Be sure to torque the diaphragm assembly to the rod according to our torque specifications listed in the service manual. Apply grease to the main shaft and to the main shaft O-ring to ensure we do not damage the main shaft O-ring. Insert the rod and properly seat the outer bead of the diaphragm into the accepted groove of the intermediate. Go ahead and repeat this process for the second side. Be sure to torque the opposite diaphragm assembly. Be sure that the outer bead of the diaphragm seats properly into the accepted groove in the intermediate of the pump. While holding the diaphragm assembly that already has been torqued in the vise, torque the opposite side to the rod. Inspect the outer chamber for casting integrity. Inspect the machine surfaces and radius of the chamber for damage or material buildup. Ensure the radius on the inside of the chamber is maintained during cleanup. Replace the chamber if necessary. Chamber orientation requires the discharge side of the chamber to be installed in the same direction as the air valve face on the center block. Now install the outer chamber bolts. When torquing the outer chamber bolts, be sure to torque in a cross pattern according to factory specs listed in the service manual. Now we're ready to install our opposite outer chamber. Go ahead and repeat this process for the second side. This Versamatic pump includes a check ball retainer system that incorporates a ball cage, check ball, and valve seat. On the suction side, insert the check ball into the valve seat, install a ball cage, and insert the ball cage retainer assembly with the valve seat facing towards the suction manifold. The ball cage will face down into the chamber. Then install the valve seat O-ring. Repeat this process for both ball cage retainer systems. Orientation of the manifold is based on process requirements and may be reinstalled in either direction. Torque the suction manifold bolts in a cross pattern according to factory specs listed in the service manual. Now we're ready to install our discharge manifold. Insert the check ball into the valve seat, install a ball cage, and insert the ball check retainer system with the ball cage facing towards the discharge manifold. The valve seat will face down into the water chamber. Now insert the valve seat O-ring. Repeat this process for both ball cage retainer systems. Orientation of the manifold is based on process requirements and may be reinstalled in either direction. Torque or discharge manifold bolts in a cross pattern according to factory specs.